Welcome to Let's Share, hosted by me, Leigh Byers, president and founder of HANA Ministry, a faith-based nonprofit that promotes the human interaction of sharing what we have and expressing what we need. The guests in the podcast are the people who I have connection stories with and have something meaningful to share in their communities of connection. Thank you for listening. Let's share.
I'm Leigh Byers. I'm the founder and president of HANA Ministry. And today's podcast is really going to be an opportunity for us to talk about 2023 in review of HANA Ministry and how things have gone this past year. We're now in 2024 and there's lots of hope for that coming year, but it's really awesome to look backward and review some of the things that took place. And when I really started going through it, I realized, wow, a lot more happened last year than I could have possibly imagined or even planned for, because it's not just the willingness and the strategy and writing things down, but it's about actually God providing, and He has. And so I look forward today to just sharing with you all the opportunities that I have seen God provide in this year for me to share what I have and express what I need, and for other people to do the same, whether it is personally or on social media. It's been an awesome year, and I am looking forward to sharing. So let's get started. This will be both a video and a podcast, and it's intended to share what HANA Ministry has accomplished and express what is needed for 2024. And so let's just talk about a quick overview. 2023 provided HANA's first full year as a nonprofit. It is a registered 501c3, and HANA Ministry is a faith-based nonprofit. And there have been some amazing outcomes of growth. We've had growth opportunities and connections and resources that are beyond anything that I could have imagined. And so I'm going to be going over that with you today. One of the first things that happened in the beginning of 2023 is that there was a relocation of the founder and president. I am now in the northern central Florida in Ocala. And the exciting part about that is that the HANA Ministry really started in Miami, which is in South Florida. It didn't mean that the ministry was no longer in Miami, but it means that it's now extended. And that's a very exciting component of what has taken place. And one of the most interesting things that happened before 2023 started is I started attending a church called Central Christian Church. And my experience there was very affirming. And I'll tell you why. The first day I went, the actual scripture that was being preached upon were the foundational scriptures of HANA Ministry, and it basically about sharing what we have, and Christians would no longer be without a need. And that was an amazing experience for me to see that at the very first time I had gone to that church. And that very day, they were also doing a program for people that were considering new membership, and it was a free experience. And so I chose to do it. But it was an hour after the church service ended. So I lived pretty close by, drove home, came back. And interestingly, as I was walking to go in, there was a young lady that this never usually happens. I was wearing a jacket, but she walked up to me and she goes, "I really like your blouse." And I thought, wow, that was an interesting thing to say. And I looked down and she happened to have a name tag on, and her name tag said HANA, which is the actual phrasing of the acronym for HANA Ministry. And I thought, wow, is that another affirmation? And so continued to attend. And in 2023, that has been the primary church of attendance for us this year. And it is a church that definitely has some alignment to HANA Ministry and my mentality of starting the ministry. They serve the community a lot. They serve individuals. They serve the nonprofits as well as the government organizations. It's an amazing organization, and that really aligns very much with the values of HANA Ministry. The other thing that I did this year is I attended the Ocala Citizens Academy, and that was a great experience, and I'll talk about that a little more later. But just a really interesting year, and just to have that first experience. The other thing that took place is that at the beginning of the year, I realized that just having the group in Miami was not going to be enough, and realized that also because HANA Ministry is an organization, that the organization needed its own profiles on social media. So I created profiles on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so Have Anita Ministry as an official 501c3 has joined also multiple Facebook groups to find out more about what's happening that is basically free opportunities and experiences and information. And that is a big piece of what I like to do with Have Anita Ministry is make sure people get information and share it with the people that are there around. And so with the new location and all of that, I also added more state and national information to share, which I think is very important. And because a lot of times people don't look for that on social media, and this is an opportunity to share that. And also, as part of that, went from not just creating profiles for the organization, but also a new group in the Ocala, North Central Florida. So there is a very small number of people in that right now, but hoping that will continue to grow over time and organically as this organization continues to grow and reach. Also in 2023, events were a part of what took place. And one of the first events that we did up here in Ocala was an event with another nonprofit organization called Bow in the Cloud. And it's an organization that was very committed to serving children and families and so faith-based. And the event was focused on wonderful things like mental health. And they even had a singer there that was on American Idol. He didn't make it all the way, but it was really cool to see him there. And it was the first time that I had the resources to be able to buy some equipment and things that are needed to do events. So I was able to buy a tent. We have a wagon to move things around. We have tablecloths and things to hold brochures, and actually creating the brochures and other printed materials that are needed, as well as signage. So that was an excellent experience. And then there was another event we did this fall, and it was a share giving event, a wellness event that was based in Miami, and it was Give Miami Day, but there was a lot of sharing there, everything from food to products from a wellness company and just sharing time. So that was another piece of what took place for me in Miami. Another experience is something that I've done, as I said, with the Ocala Citizens Academy. That experience was the opportunity to really get to know and see people and what this area the focus was, and it's actually quite amazing. There's a lot going on up here and a lot of growth. It's actually one of the top cities growing in the country right now, and so it's really important to see the back burner, and the back burner is very ethical, and there's a lot of good things happening up here. So that experience was awesome, and it was free. So that was another piece that I really love about Have Anita Ministry is basically spreading that information out there. And it was an opportunity for me to get to know some people and just grow from that. The other thing I did is there's a woman that I met when we first moved here. I had to do a yard sale because we had a lot of things in our house, and she had come by in 2022, and I met her for the first time. And she has been somebody that I have shared with a lot, and especially plants. And she is a senior lady who actually has government housing. And so when you're in government housing, you can't have yard sales or sell the things you have. And she is hoping that with one of her sons, who's military veteran that is actually not well, they're hoping to buy a house together. And the need to be able to kind of purge their house a bit is part of the need that she has. And so I was willing to share a yard sale that I was also doing in 2023 so that she would have a space to be able to sell some of her things. So that was a great experience, and we had fun, and we're going to do it again this year. The other thing that took place, and this is, wow, a real blessing for me, and also very sad in other ways. But there is a wonderful woman that I worked with for 9 years in ministry, Patsy Jean Baptiste. And she had gone through major health crisis, including cancer and kidney failure and some things like that. And she had to actually not be able to work as much. She was then living with her daughter, and she had some things that she wanted to express. And I had been thinking for a while about starting a podcast for Have Anita Ministry. And she was actually the first person that I did a recording with, and really represented my initial effort to start the Let's Share podcast. And Patsy was able to express some things that she was grateful for, but also some things that she felt that her family needed. And it was a lovely experience, but also very sad. We did that in March, and she actually passed away in June of 2023. And how the Lord works some of these things out, it's hard to explain, because again, I'm not in Miami now, but I happened to be in Miami the very Sunday that she went home to be with the Lord. And I got a call within 10 minutes of her going home. And the interesting thing about that was that I was able to be there and be the host of her celebration of life. And there were more than 200 people present to celebrate Patsy's life. And there were a variety of organizations, including the church that she worked at, including the locations of the stores, her family, and the restaurants. So she's just an amazing woman that is well missed. And her daughter is a beautiful young woman, and her husband, and they just had a child. And Patsy didn't get a chance to actually be a grandmother here on the earth. What a wonderful woman that she was reaching out and wanted to do the Let's Share time with me. So that was something very important in this journey, and it can be found on YouTube. Generous giving has also been something that's been a great experience for starting the Let's Share podcast. And one of the things that I would say that the Let's Share podcast has done is allowed me to make some connections with several people and reconnect people that I have relationships with, and to talk about our lives together personally and professionally, and how the Let's Share opportunities have really come into play. And because of the generous giving, there's needs when you do start a podcast, and one of them is to have a subscription so that your podcasts are easily published. They're on a lot of platforms. And so generosity has helped with that as well. Zoom. We're doing a Zoom right now, and the opportunity to have Zoom at the level of profession where you can actually do recordings and be able to have meetings and things like that are more than 45 minutes is great, and with more than one person. So just an awesome thing. And so generosity has been awesome with that as well. And there's also been an opportunity to add a wellness company as a resource. I'll talk more about that. And I've become the first employee of Have a Need Ministry. So there's some more things to chat on that as well. One of the things with the wellness company is that an incredible benefit that has taken place. And the story is kind of interesting. Kind of the end of 2022, I was in communication with a woman that I had known for several years, and she had just wanted to launch a nonprofit as well and had done that. And we had worked together a little bit to help her to do that. But she had also gotten involved as a customer member of a wellness company and recognized that there was some marketing that she could do to benefit her nonprofit as well as herself. And so she was sharing with me about it. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and do it for a month just so I can help her nonprofit a little bit. And so I signed up to be a member and bought a few things. And I thought, well, I'll just cancel at the end of the month. And what ended up happening was I started to really love the products. And I realized that, it was okay to keep going with it. It's a lot easier. That I don't really like to always go out shopping, and the stuff was healthy. And so I started using it. And then I recognized that I could use some additional things like the supplements to help with my health, but my husband's health as well. And so it continued, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things that I learned from her is that you could actually register your nonprofit or a nonprofit. It didn't have to be yours, as long as the leadership, including the board, would approve. It would be underneath the company as it's considered a member that doesn't have to buy anything, but that can benefit by receiving a percentage of other members that shop if they end up being placed under that organization. And I decided to go ahead and register for it. I wasn't doing much with it. And then a few months later, they were doing a special deal where if I was able to encourage other members to come on, up to 8, I could get $1,000. And it actually worked. There were people that were willing to try it and willing to help me support Have a Need Ministry, and it worked out. And it was a great way to be able to provide some revenue to continue doing some of the things that were going on. And the other benefit is health. And that's one of the things about this particular wellness company that is so awesome, is that this is not something that when somebody is a membership of this wellness company that they just benefit Have a Need Ministry. They're also benefiting their own health and wellness. And that's the most exciting thing. That's the whole point, is sharing is both directions. It's expressing what we have and also what we need. And that is awesome for this organization. So it's been a miraculous experience, and it's been ongoing There have been ongoing memberships, and there's been ongoing revenue that has come into the organization because of that. And I have been able to really see the benefits for my husband and I in blood work, and also in our energy, and just the joy of using better products in our more mature season of life. And in growing HANA this year, I became an employee with very minimal hours. And the idea behind this is down the road, the organization may need another employee. The process of properly setting up a system and filling out the proper taxes and documents is an excellent next step. And the board treasurer, Sarah Gonzalez, has been very helpful to make this happen. But the funds I generate from the wellness company, I actually can donate to offset the minimum wage I make for 20 hours a month. So it's been a fantastic experience. And the funds are in addition to the funds that come directly to HANA. So I can donate, but HANA also gets some funds directly from the organization. So I always like to share about this. And if anybody's ever interested, feel free to reach out to me. I can talk to you more about it. And just the experience, like I said, is not just to benefit the organization, but it is to benefit your health and wellness. And it has definitely benefited myself and my husband greatly. The other thing that has happened this year that has been absolutely amazing is the foundational giving. The foundational giving that I'm talking about is the last couple years, Havanita Ministry has been able to participate in Give Miami Day. And this year, 2023, we were able to get another benefit again. It was a wonderful experience. In addition to the wellness event that we did down in Miami on that day, it was just awesome to see the benefits of just a little bit of giving, even if it wasn't as much as other people received. What an amazing experience of more than $33 million being given to nonprofits around that area. And to be a part of that was very exciting. And the other thing was a foundational grant that Havanita Ministry was given unexpectedly. And it was through a private foundation noted as Signatory. And wow, what an amazing experience to have that happen in late fall, because there ended up being an amazing experience after that of serving a family. And I'll share a little bit more with you on that. In the process of Havanita Ministry being available, I haven't gotten a lot of phone calls yet or anything like that. And that's totally fine because it's mostly been a social media pursuit. But one day or early December, I got a phone call, and it's, as you may know, Mary June Kemp, my mom, was one of my inspirations for starting this nonprofit. She loved working in benevolence, and she passed away in 2022, and 2023 was my first year without her. But I've always had her phone. And so this year, her phone isn't the Havanita Ministry phone. And the problem is sometimes I get a lot of scam calls, so I don't pick it up right away. And what happened was I receive a call from an area code. It doesn't say scammer or anything, but I figure, well, if they leave a voicemail, I will respond and pick it up. A voicemail was left. And when I checked it, it sounded like just a regular lady, maybe a little bit older. And when I called her back, she did not pick up the phone. And so I left her a message, but I didn't hear back until 10 days later. And what happened was 10 days later, the lady called me up, and here she is. She said, I got a message from you, but I don't really remember why I called you. And I knew that there was no way she could have gotten my number unless she had gone on a website. And what she was expressing is that she and her daughter, that's in her mid-30s, and her two grandchildren that are in their teens were being evicted from a motel. They've been staying in a motel, and they needed some help to get into another motel that was more affordable. And I, fortunately, because of that grant, had enough revenue to be able to say yes. And in the course of the next several weeks, up and even till this week, which we're in 2024, on and off, I was able to help them. And even at one point, they paid me back. But one of her challenges was that she was not able to get her Social Security because it was supposed to be coming in the mail and it did not arrive. And how do you get mail when you're at a motel that's in a different motel, and then somebody else is supposed to be getting in the mail, it's not coming? So I was able to help her to get to a bank and be able to get a direct deposit and get her to the Social Security so that could be done. And they actually paid me back for one of the weeks that they were there. And so I thought that was an awesome perspective of sharing and the fact that people can do that. And one of the interesting things about their scenario is that the daughter has some issues with her health, and part of that is addiction. And the mom had some needs in terms of her capacity to recover from a stroke that she had in August, which is why she was having some memory issues and things like that. So I had been staying in touch with them, trying to help them as I could with different things. And one of them was to reach out to an organization up here that's similar to Alliance for the Aging in Miami that helped me with my mom. It's called Elder Options. And Elder Options jumped in and provided some information and contact. And we were able to, just this week, get her into an assisted living facility so she's no longer living in a motel. And the daughter is also now in a space where she can get some treatment and care to hopefully go into full recovery. The children need continued prayer, but there was some wonderful families who are serving them well as the mom and the grandmother are no longer able to care for them right now. So this is just an unusual thing. It's not something that's normally on the Have Anita ministry plate, but for whatever reason, God opened the door and there was such a peace about it and it went so smoothly. And it's been an amazing experience to see somebody go through that kind of journey and finish it to the end. So I just want to say that this year 2023 has been beyond anything I could have expected. Those are just some light explanations of those stories, but just really going back and reviewing all that and seeing all that God has allowed me to do, and to also leverage the prayer of our board members and the capacity to be able to keep going and to see us with more revenue starting in 2024 than we had in 2023, and how God has provided that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what God's going to do with this ministry this year and how we're going to serve our communities and how things are going to grow. And so I thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. I thank you for your prayers. And if there's any way that I can serve you, or if you have anything that you would like to share, whether it's time, money, information, please do that, and do it on social media. Or if it's something directly with me, please do that. And know that haveanitaministry.com is the website, and you can find contact space there. And I just pray that we will just see that 2024 is even more than what we could have anticipated, in the same way that 2023 has been. Thank you again for listening to this podcast, Let's Share, and there'll be more to come. And that's another thing. If you are interested in doing a podcast with me, please reach out. Let's share.
Thank you for sharing your time listening to this Let's Share podcast. Our hope is that you receive some inspiration to give and receive, because giving plus receiving equals sharing. If you want to learn more about Have Anita Ministry, go to haveanitaministry.com. Look forward to connecting soon.